Hi, this is Joe Kelty, and this is my presentation on legacy leaders for CI5550. Okay, so my leader that I chose is John Lansbury, and who is he in the world of middle school education? Well, he began his career as a social study teacher in Wilmington, North Carolina. He earned his bachelor's degree in a small college in Tennessee, and then his master's degree at Peabody in Nashville. Wrote his dissertation about education and the junior high school movement, not the middle high school movement, because at the time there weren't really middle schools. It was more of course, we know this age group attended what was being known as junior highs at the time, and they were really considered more of a prep school for high school. And so as we know it through this class and some of the classes we're taking, that eventually became middle schools, and that's when the middle school movement became such an interesting concept because of the uniqueness of young adolescents. But back to what has he done in the world of middle school education? So since at the time he wrote his dissertation on junior high school movement, he also had a professional relationship that he developed with a founder of the junior high school movement known as Leonard Coos. Later in 1948, Dr. Lounsbury became a junior high school teacher in North Carolina. He completed his doctorate studies and then began working at the Georgia State College in 1960. He served as the chairman of the Division of Teacher Education there and the director of graduate studies there. And he became the first dean of the Georgia State School of Education, which is pretty impressive, I thought. Okay, so what are some of his contributions made to the field of middle school education? Well, in the 1960s, he became known as a legacy leader in the middle school movement. Like I just mentioned, that there was a junior high school movement, and now he's a legacy leader in the 1960s of this new middle school movement. And he advocated for middle grade practices that supported the development of teacher-student relationships and things like schools within a school. He served in the Georgia Middle School Association and in the Georgia Lighthouse program, which was a schools to watch program, which is wonderful, because then as schools implemented these reforms, then you would have empirical evidence to say, look, here are schools that are actually implementing these middle school reforms, and here's the data that shows that this actually works. Classic, wonderful planning there. Dr. Lounsbury served with the AMLE, the Association for Middle Level Education, which of course was formerly the NMSA, and he wrote hundreds of articles, books for publication, all on the issues of middle school reform. He's been known as a mentor, a role model, and an inspiration to both teachers and students in and around the country, in particular with regard to middle school education. What makes him a legacy leader? Well, I read a number of his articles from some of the documents that he published, and he had such a great passion for middle school reform, and he focused on guiding the learning and development of, I hadn't read a lot of people who referred to the young adolescents as impressionable young adolescents as they come of age. His language was just really passionate. He had speeches and writings that just developed a really keen level of common sense and understanding about how to increase the effectiveness of learning in middle schools and within the classroom. And so in 1978, he was the first person to receive an award from AMLE to recognize his amazing scholarship, service, and leadership, and contributions to theory and practice in middle level education. And after he received that award, they ended up naming the award after him. So it was then called the John H. Lounsbury Distinguished Service Award, that many distinguished people and other founders of the other founders of the middle school reform movement also received that same award. Very amazing. He's quite a legacy leader, I would say. Okay, what issues did he address in his career? Well, as the editor of the AMLE publication, Middle School Journal, he published, frequently all these articles that were set for like 15 years that essentially addressed just every issue, every challenge facing middle school reform. Here's some examples. How to advocate for implementation of the actual reforms, how to improve student-teacher relationships, how to focus on helping the students learn concepts, not simply score well on a standardized test, but really learning the concept and having a level of understanding so they could apply knowledge and wisdom, right? He elevated the reputation of the critical importance to help these impressionable young adolescents grow and come of age. I mean, a very personal edge to education. And so he was a writer and editor in each of the 4 editions of This We Believe, which I know we've been reading as students of this, AMLE's position paper, which has been revised 4 times now. He was a writer and editor for each one of those 4 publications. And it's just wonderful. It's keys and critical aspects of successfully educating young adolescents. He has served on boards, commissions, and councils that address the improvement of curriculum development and school principal development and middle-level education in general. So how does knowing about him influence our understanding of middle-level education, both now and in the future? Well, you know, Dr. Lounsbury helped us see that in every area of knowledge and understanding, I should say, every area of knowledge and understanding in the world continues to increase. So if we teach our children in conventional ways, the same ways that their parents learned decades ago, what makes us think that they're going to be able to keep up with the changing cultures and the changing technologies of the modern world? They're not going to be able to keep up. So he said we would be wise to consider new approaches to teaching that result in more effective learning because they take into account these changes in the world, and they will enable you to address the growth and development of the whole child. And that means cognitively, physically, morally, psychologically, emotionally, and socially as well. You know, classic thinking, wonderfully new and strange for the time, I expect. Not purely academic, right? The whole child. Very cool. Okay, what are some of his awards and acknowledgments? He's got several awards from all the major associations: NASSP, Georgia Middle School Association, from the National Forum to Accelerate Middle Grade Reform, from Georgia College and State University, and of course I mentioned the AMLE award that's in his own name, the John H. Lounsbury Award for Distinguished Achievement in Middle Level Education. He was the first recipient of that award, and of course it's awarded every year now from AMLE in his name. Here's a great photo, I thought, of Dr. Lounsbury, just surrounded by, you know, adolescents. Even in his advanced age, it looks like here, you can tell by the looks on the faces of these young people that they can understand his level of dedication and appreciation for the stage of life that they're in and how he wants to improve education and teacher and student relationships. That's a great photo. Okay, here's some nicknames. Dr. Lounsbury, fondly referred to as the founder, or I should say a founder of the middle school movement, as a legacy leader in the middle school movement. He's been known as the middle school mentor to all. He is a prolific author, editor, researcher, and teacher. He's been known as the Lighthouse Man, really from that Schools to Watch program. He's the Dean Emeritus of the Georgia College of Education. He's been known as a mentor, a role model, and an inspiration. He's been called the conscience of the middle school. And how about this last one? He's been known as a wonderfully conservative, progressive, liberal man. He's got the entire spectrum. He goes from conservative to liberal. So he's a man for all seasons, I suppose, is another thing that maybe people would call him. Here's a few things I thought just for fun. His thoughts, words, and writings really do have a true lasting value. He was cited by the US Congress in the Congressional Record during presentations in Washington, D.C. Many of his books, of course, are still available for purchase and online. I looked up a number of them, and here my last bullet. There was one paperback copy of his book, As I See It, literally selling on Amazon.com for almost $1,000. And I said, and it's well worth the cost, right? Check it out. Here's my screen capture, the one in the middle. As I See It, it says paperback book, $935.25. And right down here, oh, and only $3.99 for shipping, but there's only one left in stock, so you better order soon and get your $1,000 copy of As I See It. I thought that was great. Okay, here's some of my references from this presentation, and I appreciate your attention. Thanks.